Hi, Ms. Lancaster here. So here is a brief video discussing Chapter 13, which is the health-related social problems. So it is really important kind of to think about this in a different way. The medical institution, of course, that exists in society, there are problems with it. There are also social problems more on an individual scale, like individuals, right, can experience social problems that are health related. But what we really need to kind of think about, and this one's a tough one for a lot of people, is to recognize that both the idea of what health is, what illness is, and what disease is are socially constructed ideas. Okay. So really we have to recognize the idea of thinking about this from a sociological mindset of recognizing what exactly is healthy. What does healthy look like? Right? What is healthy? What is sick? So some things I want us to think about is that our society itself is that there is a there's common logic attached to this, right? That illness is a physical event caused by physical factors, but we have to step back and recognize that there are social factors that could potentially be at play in the physical factors, right? So sociologists call this kind of taken for granted way of thinking about sickness and disease. And when we use just the medical model. So we need to kind of really look at how, in some ways, health, right, and illness is used as a form of social control, right? We do have a medicalized society, which means basically that um, we create these illnesses, define, right? Think about it from a sociological mindset that illnesses are defined and that wellness is defined. And by medicalizing it, we make everything kind of look like this is totally a physical, that health and wellness are a physical thing. But there are some flawed assumptions about what health is. And two of those really important flawed assumptions, the two ones that I want to talk about is that genetics explain our disease, genetics alone, like it's just genetics, like we're genetically predisposed to these illnesses, and that's what's going to make us sick. And the second one is that people make poor choices about their lifestyles, right? Poor lifestyle choices. It's important to recognize that there is no evidence for genetic contribution for all illnesses, right? Um, Cultural practices play a part in things such as drug use and health, what we eat, and things like that. So we have to recognize the difference between both illness and death, morbidity and mortality, and look at the social factors that shape this. I'm like, honestly, as you're reading through the chapter and you're looking at the charts, kind of take a look at how social class can very much be related to um, who gets sick and what kind of illnesses they get. People who are ill, this is the second assumption, people who are ill have made those poor lifestyle choices. That is, again, a flawed assumption because sometimes the lifestyle choices that we make are based on the abilities and the options that are available to us. That is kind of that assumption then just places all the responsibility on the individual, and lifestyles are themselves socially patterned, right? Um, lower the lower you are in social stratification, the lower you are on the social ladder, fewer choices about the foods that you eat, the type of jobs that you have, the exercise that you can take. And then if we think back to like the drug chapter, and ultimately all of the chapters, the compounding stressors can actually impact our bodies even more. So smoking and drinking habits and things like that can be impacted based on our social class, right? So um, really think about this claim that disease is a problem of the individual's body and biology. Health and illness are not just individual problems. There are patterns of health and illness by socioeconomic location, right? So if we look at class, power, gender, ethnicity, all of these things shape um, how we see illness, right? And even lifestyle behaviors that could be a cause of disease are also oftentimes connected to social circumstances. So it's really about looking at who gets sick and why they get sick. When we even think about like social, not specifically social class, but let's talk about gender. Women are actually diagnosed as being sick more often, but men die earlier. Um, there are some gender related issues as you're reading through the chapter that will notice that you may hopefully notice. Women are more diagnosed because women are more likely to seek medical care, right? There are also health problems, right, related to women, such as pregnancy, um, such as menopause, that are seen as medical conditions that are actually just natural things that take place in society. So those are illnesses, right, that women will experience that men won't. So other things is that men, because of masculinity, the ideas of masculinity, they may also have more chance for serious injury or death due to more dangerous activities that they do, the different types of jobs that they have. But one of the biggest ones is delaying doctor visits and underreporting medical conditions, right? If you continuously skip your doctor visits and choose not to go until it's an emergent thing, things will actually be worse, right? So these are just things that I want you to think about while you are reading the chapter and you're looking at these various patterns and trends in relationship to health and illness. Um, the healthcare system, right? There are lots of stakeholders in the healthcare system that exist. Okay. So we have the medical institutions, the medical industrial complex. We have pharmaceutical companies. We have alternative practitioners such as chiropractors and um, acupuncture and herbalism. Then you have patients, right? Patients are um, a stakeholder, right? Doctors, medical, insurance, all of those things all play a part in shaping what we consider our medical institution. So kind of look through as you're reading through, pay attention to what the stakeholders are and how those stakeholders impact us. The government is a stakeholder in relationship to healthcare. Um, I would really hope that you will take the time to review what's discussed about the Affordable Care Act and the misconception, recognize the potential misconceptions that you might have or that others may have had in relationship to this. It really is a matter of assisting the current healthcare model that we have. So just recognizing how important healthcare is and the ability to get it, to seek it. Um, Theories that are discussed in this chapter, the functionalism actually has a specific theory called the sick role, and it really does kind of talk about how being sick is dysfunctional for society. And when we step back and recognize what functionalism is really saying, it's dysfunctional. Why? If we have a lot of sick individuals in society, things are not going to get done, right? So they're saying basically that it is dysfunctional for you to be sick, but it is functional for you to take care of yourself, right? So as long as you are fulfilling the sick role that they're talking about by going to the doctor, seeking the care that you need, taking care, getting better, taking the treatments that are given to you, following what the doctor's orders, right? That is functional, right? So that's Parsons' discussion of from functionalism is really that being ill, right, being sick is dysfunctional for society, but it does serve a purpose. Because of course we have doctors and things like that, but as long as you are following the guidelines, right, of expectations of what you are to be doing when you're sick, then it is functional. Okay. Conflict theory, of course, is going to can really critique the medical industrial complex and the inequalities that exist in relationship to access to healthcare, access to good nutrition, access to environments, right, that shape our potential health and medical outcomes, and illness, and really even the definition of what is ill and what is not, and which illnesses we care about and which ones we don't, right? One thing to really think about is in our society, we do not see mental health as a medical condition, but that's exactly what it is. Oftentimes we separate mental health from medical when mental health is actually part of our medical history, right? Symbolic interactionism can also explain that as well in the way that what we see as being a problem or a health issue, right? Our definitions of health. And then some of these other specialized theories are important. Bordeaux talks about social and cultural capital and how that influence our when we think about our social and cultural capital, it influences our lifestyle. So that's deeply related to our social class, and then that can deeply be related to our health outcomes. And then, of course, fundamental cause theory, which is Link and Phelan. They propose that this theory actually talks about our social conditions are a source of health inequalities, right? So again, looking at where we live and who we live and our socioeconomic status, how it does affect. So what ultimately what I want you to step back from in this chapter and recognize is health is not necessarily a physical thing. It is, but there are lots and lots of social factors that are very impactful in this. So the social factors in relationship to health are important to recognize. I'll be honest with you, this is a chapter that I like to have students review, and I like to teach this chapter only because my youngest son, was diagnosed with an ultra rare disease when he was 4 months old. I'm like, to look at him today, you would never know that he is technically sick. But he is because he has this rare disease that society has defined, right? But when I think about his illness, I never really even thought about social factors and the impacts to it until he got sick. When I recognized that if I didn't have a job that had good health insurance, I may have waited, right, to seek treatment. All of these various factors that play a part in the impact of his life. And I'm like, honestly, my health insurance, because I work for Coastal, but I am technically a state employee. That's how I can afford his health care, right? Because of the plan that I have. I'm like, honestly, his medicine is extremely expensive. And at one point in time, it was the most expensive prescription drug on the market. I'm not sure that it is anymore, but it's still, hundreds of thousands of dollars in medical treatments that could bankrupt a smaller company's insurance plan. So I decided to start teaching this chapter after he got sick because people don't really always think about health. So that's my personal reason for this chapter. I hope that you all will find it useful, and that you'll enjoy the assignments that you have this week. Let me know if you have any questions, and have a great day.